Hi there, and welcome to Smart and Savvy Unedited. I'm Debbie Davis.
And I'm Demi Kazunas.
I'm Carrie Baker.
How we doing, gal?
Not bad. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Hasn't it?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, we know that somebody's been having lots of fun playing golf.
Lots of vacation time.
Wonderful.
Can we
went to
just
Idaho.
say she got a hole in one?
I
Yes.
did.
Oh,
On July 16th, I made my first hole-in-one after many years of playing golf. It was a big
Congratulations.
deal.
That's
Thank you.
office. That's
Thank you.
something to be proud
It
of.
was huge.
Who's our guest today, girl?
Well, we have a candidate for Biddeford. I think that the audience would find quite interesting. He's, I think he's pretty impressive. His name is Matt Stone, and Matt, welcome. Thank you for coming.
thank you for having me, ladies. So I'm announcing my candidacy for Senate District 32, which is, it's Biddeford and the surrounding towns, so Dayton, Arundel, Alfred, Kennebunkport, Lyman. Basically, this came about a couple weeks ago. We found out that Steve Martin is having some health issues.
Right.
So keep him in your prayers and thoughts. He's a great guy. I have a lot of respect for him. But sadly, he just couldn't run. So the Secretary of State's office agreed to allow him to withdraw from the campaign. And it's a funny story how it all started. 2 weeks ago, the county chair for the Republicans, a guy named Jim Booth, and Demi knows Jim really
And
well.
I think we've heard in the papers, unfortunately, that he sent a private email, I believe, and it was somebody kind of leaked it out. And
Yes.
and go on and tell us how you saw it too.
Yeah, I saw the email. Jim put out this private email. He's a candidate recruiter, and he's a candidate recruiting machine.
Yes.
The Senate district
Yep.
across the river in Saco was going unopposed. One of the candidates had to drop out. So Justin Chenette, this Democrat, who happens to be gay, was running unopposed, and Jim was looking for candidates. And he called Justin some names, and the specter of homophobia was brought up.
Right.
So me being an openly bisexual Republican, I thought, and that's the B in LGBTQ, whatever, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I thought I should reach out to Jim. I've known him for a couple years. I wanted an explanation. We had a frank discussion. It was like an hour long. We talked about why he did this. He manned right up and apologized to Justin, which I thought was the right thing to do.
Right.
And I was satisfied with the answer that he gave me, and I knew he wasn't a homophobe.
Right.
Okay, and that's all that mattered to me. But in the course of the discussion, we thought, it's kind of novel that we've got this openly, LGBT Republican. Is there something I could do? Is it time to serve? And I have a history in politics. I worked for Peter Mills. Peter Mills was my mentor.
Sure.
Yeah,
A
sure.
state senator, ran for governor, and then of course he didn't succeed, but Governor LePage did the right thing, made Peter the head of the Maine Turnpike Authority.
Right.
One of the best choices they've made.
They cleaned up a lot of corruption, so I learned a lot from those experiences. I worked for Angus King for a period. I worked on ballot initiatives. The last couple years I've been in the private sector. I've been doing work in Maine's not-for-profit credit union movement, so we get lots of people out of debt. I'm really proud of the work that they do as a whole, and I thought it's time. I'm in my late 20s now. It's time to give back to this community. So I met with Steve. I got his blessing. Steve and I agree a lot ideologically, and he's a former cop, something I have a lot of respect for. My dad was a Lewiston police officer for 25 years.
Nice.
He worked in child protective services, so he dealt a lot with sexual abuse and sexual assault. Something that I'm passionate about too. Here in
Right.
Biddeford, there's these scandals and rumors about
Right.
this systemic abuse that's in the
Right.
city.
Sure.
And that's something in the state Senate. There are things we could do.
Yes.
And we've got to take on the political establishment in Biddeford that seems to, I don't know if it's that they don't care. I'm really concerned that these victims aren't being heard. So I've met with some
Right.
of the victims, and it's just really shocking. So that's going to be part of our campaign.
Yeah, and I didn't grow up here in Biddeford. I moved here about 10 years ago, but when this stuff all came about, I'm wondering, why would this be happening? And in Biddeford, to me, seems like such a close-knit community. My mayors are in your life, pairs, they're important to you, da-da-da-da-da. I just didn't get that. I didn't know how something like that could
Yeah,
be
I was
going on and
shocked.
nobody know or nobody speak.
Yeah, I've lived here 5 years, so I'm part of the community now. I mean, I'm from the Lewiston area, and you know, I'm really, again, I'm passionate about what's going on in the city, and it really bothered me when I started hearing
Yeah.
these rumors. So that's part of the campaign. You know, I've got the other thing is the drugs.
Yeah.
We've got to do
Big
something
deal.
about the heroin. The heroin is terrible.
Exactly.
It's flowing through Biddeford. We've got to do something. And you know, I've got 3 sisters. They've got kids now. I saw what happened to Lewiston growing up. I saw what heroin has done to that city, and we can't allow what happened to Lewiston happen to Biddeford. We've got to do something, and so that's going to be a big part of our campaign as well. Is talking a lot about how do we treat the victims, how do we punish the perpetrators of this evil, and we've got to punish them.
And that's part of the problem. We don't have enough
We don't.
The resources aren't
punishment.
there. The state legislature, they're doing a lot of the right things. I mean,
Right.
I respect what the governor and the legislature have passed some measures to increase funding for cops and the DA and get more judges on the cases. But we've got to do something bold.
Yes.
I'm definitely, I consider myself a strong leader in my private and business life, and that's what I will do in politics. I think I would go with the National Guard. I was talking to this young policy advisor. He knows a lot about the military police unit of the Maine National Guard. We could use them on the border of Maine, and all we need to do is just catch a few of these drug dealers, and they're not going to come up anymore. you
Yeah,
know?
Right.
And
that's
so
true.
It's provocative. Some people might say it's a different way of looking at it, but
Right.
the governor has brought it up. That is something I would support. I think everything should be on the table, including using the military police unit of the National Guard.
There are some bills that need to be turned around, though.
Yes.
Such as the one Kate's put forth that says if you only have a large quantity of drugs in your vehicle when you're pulled over, as long as you don't have any paraphernalia or money or anything else that would go
scales,
with that,
you know,
scales,
yeah.
then, it's just a misdemeanor. I'm sorry, nobody's going to have
terrible.
in their back trunk
Right.
a trunk full of drugs unless they intend to sell it. That was a
Right.
terrible bill.
It is.
It's
and
weak. It's
still
very
needs
weak.
to be overturned.
And I recognize where Senator Cates may be coming from. He doesn't want to cast too wide of a net because we're going to catch some of the people who are getting caught up in this thing. I get it, but we've got to cast the net. We've got to catch
got
some
to.
of these people.
We can't
So-
be afraid.
No.
We
And
can't be.
we're working on fear that, we may know who the perpetrator is, and we are, and nobody wants to, be, chastised for coming out too strong, but people's lives, we're talking about our young people are being killed. And that's the way we got to look at it. And when these kids when they get hooked on heroin and they just add a little too much, that little amount, that one moment mistake can kill them, and their life is cut short. And if it was a traffic violation, we'd all go crazy, but we don't with drugs. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, and I see it, working in the credit union movement. I'm on the front lines. I see people's bank accounts. I see what's going on. You see people coming in jonesing for a loan, and they won't tell you why.
Oh,
And
Lord.
it just breaks your heart. We've got to help these people, but the first step is to stop the scourge. Stop the flow of the drugs coming in.
Right.
And so, and we're York County. We're right on the border.
Yeah.
We've got to do something. We've got to do something bold.
Yes. Well, you're a young man, and you're very bright, very involved with issues, and quite knowledgeable. I mean, I can't say I was probably as smart about issues when I was 28. I have to honestly tell you. You're an impressive candidate. I feel. Tell me, we have only like 93, 94 days left. Tell me a little bit about what you plan on doing on your campaign and.
Right, so this, we're taping a little early, so the campaign
Yes.
will already be in full swing once
Yes.
the viewers see this, but we're launching a listening tour. So once the announcement goes official, I'm going to be going door to door. I have some strong positions on issues already, like the drug thing is one thing.
Yep.
I think gun ownership is a civic virtue. We've got to defend our gun rights.
Yep.
Yes, we do. And every household in Maine, that's a good way to fight back against drugs that our people can take up. You know, especially in the surrounding towns, I think of you know, police response times are a lot longer. And so, you know, Steve Martin was telling me that he has this great analogy where he talks about using a fire extinguisher. And you don't have a fire extinguisher so you can take on a whole house fire by yourself. You know, the same thing with a gun. A gun is just to buy you time.
Right.
You know, we don't live in a police state. I don't want to live in a police state.
No.
You can't have, my dad always told me that growing up. You know, people
Right.
have to take responsibility for their safety and their families. So we're going to be really strong on guns, and we're going to talk about the drugs. We're going to talk about prosperity. You know, how do we foster an economy that doesn't serve, you know, just the well-connected and the special interests? We have a big problem with that in Biddeford. I mean, look at the
Yes.
planning board. Look what they're doing.
Yes.
You know, they would rather paper over these problems.
So many towns are like that.
They are,
Yeah.
and there's a lot we could do in the state senate to fight back. There's too many people getting greased.
Wow.
You know, the system is really broken, and in Biddeford in particular, we've got this problem of, you know, the planning board in the city, the establishment, they understandably want to attract a lot of outside economic development. I
Right.
totally support that. I think
Right.
the downtown revitalization stuff is fantastic, but they're not dealing with the root causes of our social problems. If we don't get a handle on the drugs, if we don't get a handle on the crime, if we don't clean up the streets first, then what's the point?
Very good.
We're,
Steve.
we're,
Wow.
we're just papering
Love
over
this
it.
guy.
Yeah.
I know.
I do too. I am struck by your
Yeah.
and your ability to relay what
Yeah.
your thoughts are and your
Yeah.
He's
stances.
articulate.
Really.
He knows what
Yeah.
he wants. I like
It's-
this.
You're very impressive, I have to tell you. And
I have just a question. Having just met you,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here pretty much in awe because I mean you're just issue after issue. Obviously, have given a lot of thought to so much. So I'm really pleased to know that you're running. I am wanting to ask you though. How is it that you're so brave in terms of what is the LGBT community going to how are they going to receive you? Because this typically we don't see a more conservative, fiscally conservative minded
We
person.
don't hear from them.
We don't
Right.
hear from them. But
I'm
I'm,
sure
I'm
they're all
curious to see.
I think it's a natural fit, frankly. I mean, you go down to a gun quit, most of those business owners are LePage supporters.
Really?
Okay? Yes, they are. I mean,
They don't talk about it.
They don't. I mean, there is another establishment, the LGBT establishment. I used to work in that movement here in Maine. I have some disagreements with their approach. You know, I think basically a lot of these issues are settled. I thought Peter Thiel was at the Republican convention a few weeks ago. He's a Silicon Valley guy. He's openly gay. And he was talking about how like the bathroom thing is just a distraction. We got to talk about the economy again. I'm totally in that ballpark. You know, you're not going to see me going around Biddeford wearing this stuff on my sleeve. No one well, maybe some people want to know what I'm up to at night, but I don't think they do.
Right.
I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
These other candidates, these Justin Chenets and these Ryan Fectos, you know, they talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and look, if they're proud of it, that's fine. I don't know if I'm proud of it. I'm certainly not ashamed of it.
Right.
It's just a piece of who I
It's
am.
not, thank you for
Yeah.
saying that,
You
because
said it
it's not
perfectly.
the only thing on which we
No.
can identify you.
Which is, I'm so appreciative of just the critical thinking aspect. I mean, hello.
Yeah, it's-
But I think that on a national scale, I'm sure, on a community level, but on a national scale, we are just seeing, cherry-picked topics that are just polarizing everyone. And I can't tell you that. Oops, I just covered the microphone. Sorry. It's just very refreshing, to hear somebody just talk about the issues.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
talk about the issues
Right.
that are meaningful to you,
Yes.
regardless of
Because they're
whatever.
meaningful to you,
Yes.
to me, to you, to you. They're
Exactly.
meaningful to
Absolutely.
everyone.
And that's why I was an independent for so long, because I don't like to be shoved into a mold.
Right.
One way or another. I'm just not as, I'm just so much more than
Right.
that.
I'm an American.
Thank you.
First,
Thank you.
okay? I'm an American. I'm a nationalist. I love my country.
Yeah.
This little piece of me is just something that, it's just there.
It is, right. It's no different than the color of your hair or the color of your skin. We need to get so past this.
We
and,
do.
And what we do in our private lives is what we do in our private lives. I don't think.
I agree.
I don't think many of us want to know what people do after hours. I surely don't. And we need to. This isn't just about the parties, because we've made it so that
Yes.
this group can only be in this party and this group.
Right.
How about, like you said it perfectly, the issues. We need to start talking about the issues and stop looking at the cover.
Yeah.
Let's
Right.
let's go deeper and find out what your heart is and what concerns you and why you want to help people. And you know, we've talked before, I fell in love with your heart. I think your heart's in the right place, and I think we need to do that more often, is to look at people's hearts and vote that way.
Absolutely.
You know?
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yep.
Yeah. It's,
Well, do you have a website, Matt?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're putting it together. I don't want to say a name until we actually buy the
Okay.
domain, but we're working on it. There will be a Facebook page. It should be
Good.
pretty easy to find. So like us on Facebook. We're accepting donations, so there's going to be a lot more information.
So you are running traditional?
I'm not running traditional.
You're not running
no,
traditional.
we've decided to do clean elections, so I don't have to take money from lobbyists and special interests. We also don't have enough time to
Right.
get a
I get
traditional
that.
campaign.
I get that.
So
I
it made
do.
more sense. I definitely have my share of criticisms for the clean election system. I don't like the way it's administered, but I think to get into the Senate, I could do a lot more if I utilize this money now.
Are you running as Matt Stone or Matthew?
I'm going to run as Matt Stone, I think.
Good.
Okay.
Matt Stone.
Yeah, Matt
great.
Stone. There are a lot of Matt Stones out there, but
I just want to know how to find you. So
right,
okay.
right. Matt Stone for Senate.
Okay.
Nice. And that's Senate District 32 with Biddeford and surrounding towns. Who is your opponent?
My opponent is Sue DeChambeau.
Sue DeChambeau.
Yep,
Now,
she-
she recently got in with a special election, yes?
She did. She's a longtime Democrat. I admire a lot of things that she does in the community. She happens to sit on a not-for-profit credit union's board, so I like that about her. I know the woman, and I know her heart is in the right place. But we have some serious disagreements about these issues. I'm concerned about what she's doing inside the Biddeford establishment. She sits on she's the chairman of the planning board, I believe.
I believe she
Here in
is.
Biddeford, yes. So she has a lot of influence. She could do a lot of things for this community, but I'm really concerned about some of the projects. I think they're papering over a lot of the problems downtown. They're not dealing with a systemic crime issue. And, and the other thing is Section 8 housing. You know, I mean, that's really what hit Lewiston. It brought in all of it, you know, they incentivized people to go to Lewiston and settle down there. I mean, they have some of the highest per capita for sex offenders. That my dad would talk about that all the time. They've got a lot of poverty, a lot of problems, a lot of crime. And that could happen. I mean, Biddeford's already got a lot of that stuff. It
Yeah.
could get a lot worse if we're not careful. So the Section 8 thing is huge. We got to stand against some of the mill projects that they're trying to push through.
Interesting.
She's a rubber stamp for that stuff.
We're going to have to look for Matt Stone online so that we can learn more about him. And if you have questions, get in touch with him. He'll have a Facebook page up. Good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
ladies.
I wish you the
Excellent.
best.
Definitely.
It's really good. Nice to meet you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Nice to have you.